Check. Yep, we got good. We're tone. We're good.
Room tone. Silence for room tone. Silence.
Is that a euphemism for cutting the cheese?
I will grate the cheese. I will grate a bit of hard cheese all over your pasta.
That's a bit of hard cheese.
All of these are euphemisms. How dare you?
Wow.
How very dare you.
Oh, God. Well, skipping carbs just got easier.
Oof.
Hey dolls, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 17, Episode 4, or as it will now be known in the annals of history, the beginning of the Box Farts curse. It was just last week that my illegitimate drag daughter, Wilhelmina Box Farts, laid claim to her seething dislike of Joella. Now she gone. Where'd she go? I think it's going to be a thing.
She was looking for her fierceness. If I have the power to get rid of queens,
yeah.
Oh, gasp! I feel like RuPaul right now.
I got a list of names for you for sure.
Wilma.
Well, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. No. But speaking of Joella, we kicked this off with her trying to celebrate her Lip Sync for Your Life win, and well, none of the other queens would have it.
No, Ariadne was in her feels about Lucky Stars.
I didn't even see the two of them talk.
No, and then Lexi was all in her field.
I didn't see the two of them talk.
And Susie too was all in her field.
I never saw those two talk.
Everyone was really sad that Lucky Stars went.
And I'm wondering if they were more sad that Lucky Stars went, or that Joella was still there. I don't know which it was, but it put the kibosh on Joella crowing her win. She, in fact, even talked about how great a drag queen Lucky Stars was, which I think diminished her win even more.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, this was the first queen that went home, so maybe it was just very jarring.
Yeah, 3 weeks in, they got attached. They got
attached, the pork girls.
This is why you send one home right away.
Yeah.
So they know what's what.
So you're like, oh, yeah, this
Don't
is easy.
get friendly. She's my best friend here. No, she's not.
Bye.
She's going home.
See you at the reunion, girl.
If you remember who she is. Just speaking of congratulations, Sam Starr was congratulated, even though Ariadne was not having it. Oh, gosh, she should not play poker, that girl.
No, she, whatever she does with that nose contour does not hide her displeasure one little bit. Yeah, complaining about Sam's little pussycat wig. Like, what else kind of wig are you going to wear under that giant
Under a big hat like that? What's she going to do with 42-inch human hair under a big hat? No.
What a waste.
No, this is what pussycat wigs were made for. Big old hats. And I have to say, Sam, I've never heard this said before, but suck my tuck. Yeah. My new favorite, for those queens who didn't like my winning, Ariadne, suck my tuck.
Suck my tuck?
Wow, geez, it's fraught with meaning.
Well, yeah, because drag queen undergarments are not very fragrant.
Or dry. No, they're already, there's a lot you're going to get sucking out of. Do you know what I'm saying?
A drag queen bag smells worse than a hockey bag. And if you're not Canadian, a hockey bag smells real bad.
Yeah, like a drag queen.
Yeah.
Two really rough drag queens.
Just less sparkly. Just as much tape. There's a lot of tape.
Both professions, very similar. Very similar.
Lots of tape in my hockey bag.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes.
Is Sam Starr's inability to sit still bothering you yet?
No, well, it's when she's in drag, I feel like it all weighs her down and sort of keeps her
centered. But when she's in the confessional, she is just all shoulders and head.
Yeah, I feel like there's a gerbil somewhere just having a seizure. It's just really killing Sam's day.
Another queen who was feeling quite chuffed with themselves, Anya Nerve. And even though Jules wasn't particularly feeling it, she was still a little hot under the collar, a little bitter over Trimgate. The trim isn't why Anya won, and the lack of trim is not why Jules lost. No. So I can understand why she'd still be a little bitter, but she needs to take that moment and go, okay, maybe I just need to try. I'm not trying as hard as I think I am.
Yeah, it's too fresh. It's too fresh. You just got off the runway. It's still too fresh. I get it.
She's still pining over Lucky Stars.
So the next day in the workroom, production, Lydia, I saw the queens if they had, after these few weeks together, if they built up any impressions of each other. Not, do I like this queen, but can I sound like this queen?
Yeah. I hate it when they pimp these things out. They should just make it into the mini challenge.
Well, Corey did a Sam impression, which was a lot of
movement.
Moving around.
Yeah, so I'm not the only one who notices.
You're not the only one. You're not the only. Jules did a very excellent Hormona impression.
Pulling ticks off a pig. What was she doing?
Ticks off a cow.
That's what she was doing.
And then Sam did a very shady Arietti impression by just being silent.
Yeah, well...
And boring.
I like that she did that because clearly she did not miss it when she was getting the side-eye after winning, so... I like that. I like that Sam's not completely oblivious. Thank God Rue arrived in yet another suit from the David Byrne collection. I like this one, the diagonal plaid.
This was fun.
Yeah, and, well, she didn't come alone. She brought Bruno.
Tasty Bruno.
Oh, yum, yum, yum. The queens were going to be selling compilation albums like you used to do on TV. Albums were those things you'd buy and put on a thing that the thing would go on the thing and they give you music.
So
very involved.
The thing about the text painting that you do, just the worlds you create with your vocabulary, it's quite beautiful sometimes.
I'm a poet.
You really are.
Bruno had on his nice little pink hot shorts and his fuzzy pink box, which the queens all had to stick their grubby little paws into to pull out tracks that they would be performing. And the albums were broken up into Volume 1 and Volume 2, so there were 2 teams.
The tracks they were going to be laying down and shilling were classic moments from days of yore, from Drag Race history.
Untucks of yore, yes. So landing on Team Volume 1, first off we had Lydia B.
The B stands for butthole.
Collins and Lana Jaray. They were doing No Manners, which was iconic early. I think
Season
possibly
2?
Possibly the first Untucked moment to set up all the rest. Mystique Summers and Morgan McMichaels. And I remember that when they had to make outfits out of curtains, so they were both standing there in weird little outfit. Well, Morgan's outfit was better than Summers, bless her heart. I mean, Mystique. But it was vivid. So these two got to recreate that.
Next up on Team Volume 1 was Joella. She pulled out We Write the Stories, a Season 3 moment from Mariah Paris Balenciaga.
Yes, fraught with meaning and dripping with intent. It was a moment, that's for sure.
Disappointment.
Yeah. Also on Volume 1, it was Jules and her BFF Arietti. They were going to be recreating in song the back rolls moment between Alyssa Edwards and... I don't even remember
Someone
her name.
not as famous as Alyssa Edwards.
No, Jade Jolie, Season 5. Vivid.
Jade. Didn't remember her.
Where are they now? Where were they then?
Worrying about
Whose
back
hands
rolls.
are these?
Whose hands are these? Oh, Mona Lisa got the iconic I nominate myself moment from Chanel in Season 1.
I feel like that's a good pairing. I think she's full of drama. I think she'd interpret that song well.
Well, I love that she was like, just like Chanel, I'm also beautiful.
Well, just like Chanel. And wrapping up Team Volume 1, it was Crystal. She got Unprofessional, which was Latrice Royale's Season 4 rant about the travesty that was Snatch Game that season. And I was excited to see what she was going to do with it. Of course, we didn't know what any of the songs sounded like, so...
No, I was very confused by this entire setup. I was like, okay, but it's less about the song and more about the commercial. I was just along for the ride. Team Volume 2 kicked it off with Susie Toot. She got You're Perfect, You're Beautiful, the Aja moment from Season 9. You're a supermodel, you're Linda Evangelista.
Sam was teamed with Acacia to recreate Star Quality, which was the Candy Muse and Tamisha moment in Untucked, which is the last Untucked I saw. I actually remember watching that on Untucked and going, well, this Untucked has turned a road. They've turned a corner. It's
Not
become a
interested.
new thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems to be like, oh, if you didn't think you got enough screen time on the main episode, now's your chance.
Now's your chance.
On Your Nerve got Put Your Lighters Up, the train wreck moment from the Ganja Stracha, the Season 6, Season 5.
Yeah, this was an intriguing idea for me because, as I say, we had no idea what kind of songs any of these were yet. They were just the titles, so we knew the moment, and that was an interesting moment. La Ganja. Lexi Love got This Is Your Moment, which she was proud to get because that was her trans sister Jasmine Kennedy's moment on season 14. Have it! Have it!
Rounding out Team Volume 2 was Corey King with Glamazon Bitch, a Kennedy Davenport moment from season 7 where she was dressed like a very confused chicken.
I still don't know what the heck she was talking about.
No.
I don't think production does. I think if you were to show Kennedy Davenport the tape, she'd deny that was her.
Yeah, my favorite part of that moment was just the look on Katya's face as Kennedy was speaking these words.
Of course, the first order of business was to give these mystery songs a listen to. For the most part, Team Volume 1 seemed very, very pleased with what they got. Jules, maybe a little too much. She seemed very happy to be recreating the Alyssa Edwards moment, even though her part was the Jade Jolie moment. But,
yeah, they just felt that they would both serve some Alyssa, because I know what an Alyssa Edwards mannerism is. I couldn't tell you what a Jade Jolie mannerism is.
No. Also, I love that they were doing side-by-sides of Jules imitating Alyssa in the original footage, but I don't know if you noticed, but I was very surprised at her vocal impersonation of Alyssa Edwards because I thought it sounded a lot more like Bernie Sanders.
Lana seemed a little concerned that her song was a lot more country than she'd expected. And this was the moment where I'm like, what is this challenge? I just thought they were going to be lip-syncing to, like,
pre-recorded stuff.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, all right. What's going on here?
No, they actually had to record the song, but then we never saw them record the song.
Yeah.
I think that Team Volume 1 was very lucky to have Crystal on because almost right away she took the reins, even at the early stage while they were listening, just suggesting things. One of the things that Team Volume 1 talked about was making sure they had a bunch of shake-and-go wigs ready to go so they could do quick character changes. And Hormona was very excited by that because she said she'd never worn a shake-and-go wig.
What a fun new thing to try. Jules was having none of it and pointed out in the confessionals that, no, that was the shake-and-go that she was wearing in the workroom. Yeah. But looks like she didn't really shake it.
Personally, I think she shook it and then had nowhere to go.
Over on Team 2, Susie expressed a bit of concern that Sam and Acacia were doing a tango number with their song. Meanwhile, Corey King seemed to be quite inspired by Kennedy Davenport and thought that she could repurpose her terrible cheap bird outfit from the previous week. So I was immediately concerned for Corey.
One thing that I felt put the writing on the wall for this episode was, even though most of the queens all seemed very pleased with their numbers, Joella was not comfortable. Her number was a gospel number, which I think is a gift right away. Like, that's a high energy
it's so
number.
Easy.
And she's like, well, I'm not very gospel, I'm a pop princess. And I thought, well, what's better for a gospel number than a pop princess doing it? Like, you know, the fact that you're going to be in a choir robe, I'm assuming, for a gospel number, that offers a costume change and a wig change option that could take you to hoary pop princess singing a gospel tune. And I think right out of the gate, Joella really let this challenge bother her. So,
yeah, well, she's like, I'm not really religious. I don't know anything about religion. Like,
you're
girl,
being too literal.
No one's asking you to recite the Lord's Prayer or like do your bar mitzvah.
No.
Like, just get in there. Like, you've never watched Sister Act?
Yeah, come on. Sister Act, please.
It's a classic.
There's 2 of them. You should have at least seen the first one.
At least.
Come on.
Baby girl.
Was she a fierce queen?
She's a fierce queen. She's the fiercest. She'll be the first to tell you. She's so fierce.
She'll be the only one to tell you. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Team Volume 2 was feeling so confident with what work they had ahead of them that they started taking time to judge the other team. And by judge the other team, I mean Sam, Red, Lydia, B.
The B stands for Butole.
Collins, for Phil. And that's when it was like, oh, there's the pageant queen.
Yeah.
There she is.
And I thought it was quite telling that Sam was like, oh, it's nice to see that the girls are finally here to compete. I'm like, oh, so this is what competition is to you. Yeah. Throwing shade. Yeah. All right, Sam Star.
Oh, yeah, no. No matter how good you are as a queen, when you're in a pageant, you got to throw pearls.
Yeah.
You gotta trip up some of these queens, good, bad, or ugly. They can't just all walk to the stage.
No. I once was in a pageant. I threw a drag queen named Pearl right at another drag queen. I took them down. It was like bowling. It was so exciting.
Yeah, it's just where you put your fingers, really.
Yeah, I've never been asked back.
No. And then it was time to film their commercials. And what surprised the hell out of me is that they didn't seem to have a director. Nobody was directing. They were left to their own devices. We don't know how they went recording it. They could have been in a bathroom with their iPhone. We don't know.
It was a mystery.
And then on set, it was really just down to them. And this is where Team Volume 1 lucked out with Crystal. She ran a tight ship. She cracked the whip. People were never at a loss for what to do. And in fact, when their idea for a tumbleweed visual failed, she took it on herself and just became the tumbleweed.
She became the tumbleweed.
Yeah.
Well, no one was being helpful. They're like, throw it like a bowling ball. I'm like, do you have a non-sports reference that we could use for this? It's like, throw it like a powder puff. Like,
why didn't somebody say, where's the Beyonce hair fan? You just force it across with the hair fan.
Oh, that would have been great. Joella had her gospel moment, but that seemed a little low energy.
Yeah. In fact, it wasn't Arietta and Jules who were sitting offside. They said it looked like she was afraid of falling off the platform. So she may have been way in her head too much for this number, for sure.
Jules, on the other hand,
oh my God, what a star!
What a star! And which made Arietta look like she was a little bit low energy.
If I had money to bet, the last person I would put money on was Jules. Not because I don't think she's a good queen, but I would never expected that much comedy to come out of her, just reacting to being hit in the face with something.
Yeah, willing
she did
to
a
look
great
stupid.
job.
Pretty queens that are willing to look stupid.
Always funny. And why did you call me pretty?
Yeah, and stupid looking.
I don't know if this was down to editing or if this was actually going on, but while Harmona was filming her segment, a bunch of the other queens kept yelling at her to emote, and she didn't seem to be listening to them. And in fact, she even said, I'm not looking for direction from these people. I'll look for direction from the judges. You know, like, which I think is a great way to do anything.
I was definitely a little bit worried, but Harmona did not seem worried at all. She's like, no, I don't need direction.
No, yeah. And if that's what you think, then go ahead.
Yeah.
And if you were right, well, then good for you. Yeah.
And Crystal just seemed to be very confident and in control.
In her element.
Happy in her leadership role.
And she did a great job because she directed. She didn't dictate.
Yes.
Yeah. And she kept it moving. That was the other thing. She just kept it moving. And if there was an idea there, it was like, oh, that's a good idea, but we only have this much time left. Yeah. You know, so I have learned to like Crystal just a snickerdoodle more than I did last week, only because finally some personality.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very regimented personality, and I'm sure she'd do very well in the Army, or the Army's done well in her. I don't know what it is, but I'm just saying.
And then it was time for Team Volume 2 to record their commercial. Things kicked off as Susie Toot. She had a little solo rock number.
She looked fantastic.
I was shocked.
I would have walked right by her. I wouldn't have recognized her in a second.
She looked great. She seemed to know exactly what she wanted. The queen seemed to be really enjoying it, and it all seemed to fit very well with the aesthetic of the song. So I could not wait to see what Susie Toot came up with.
Well, great way to start this challenge for sure.
Much to my surprise, surprise.
Cal. Over on Team Sam Star, Acacia did exactly what she was told, which is how Sam likes it.
Yeah, Sam was real worried about being paired up with the other country girl, but seeing as they were doing a tango track, I don't think it really mattered.
No, and also, I think there's something with Acacia. She's aware of where she's landing in this group, where, like, how good she is. Do you know what I mean? And I think with someone like Sam, who is clearly just a more experienced queen. I'm not saying she's a better queen, but she's done more.
Anya Nerve had another solo moment, and she also seemed to have a very clear vision, to the point that when she was done, the rest of the queens were like, oh no, did we make her look too good?
Yeah, we've made a terrible decision here. I was shocked with Lexi. First of all, for two reasons. First of all, I thought it was Amanda Lepore at first.
That wig was amazing.
And then the fact they had broke out the Beyonce wig fan, and it moved nothing.
It barely touched that wig. I was like, there's a fan on her. It was like,
most people talk about a double stack. That's a quadruple stack.
That was the most wig I've ever seen. That was Lady Bunny.
I'm surprised she didn't snap her neck back. And then finally, there was Corey in her ugly chicken dress with a reveal that no one could see. What a mess! Like it just in the filming. You know, sometimes you see the filming and they're just clearly showing you all the outtakes. There didn't seem to be anything good to show from this.
No, she was lying in a pile of feathers, and then she was laying physical eggs. And
very egg-centric.
And then she had all the queens smash eggs on her. And
Yeah, it looked tragic. It wasn't very
weird,
funny.
yeah.
I was worried for her.
Yeah, I mean, she scrambled around on the floor.
Literally.
So
I did. It was very
scrambled.
funny.
Yeah, it was very scrambled, yeah.
For you. It was
Yeah, fortunately it was over easy, so...
And then it was Elimination Day, and everyone in the room had positive feelings about how the taping went, which Jules didn't buy. Jules thought someone's lying.
Yeah,
a couple of these queens are lying.
lying.
Yeah, and I think one of them that was lying was Joella.
Yeah. I hope she was lying. I hope she didn't think that went as well as she claimed it did, because that's different. Pretending you've done well when you haven't is very different than thinking you've done well when you haven't.
But you know what was even worse was all the other queens, whether they were on Team Volume 1 or Team Volume 2, asked Joella how she was feeling. But in that, how are you feeling?
How are you
Like, why, what did you hear type
Yeah.
of way. And it started to bother, like she thought, why, what have you heard? Like literally, like she started to think, did I not do that?
Did I go? No, we watched. Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, we
at all.
saw.
Yeah, it was terrible. Production forced Lexi to ask which of the queens in the workroom were Halloween queens, and the only one was Susie Toots, which I have to say, first of all, makes sense with Susie.
Yeah.
That Halloween would be the first time. But I was also surprised not more queens had done it first at Halloween. And then the thing that really bothered me was Lexi jokingly, I mean, she wasn't being mean or anything, but she jokingly pointed her finger and yelled, shame, and had all the other queens point at Susie, shame. And I thought, what's so shameful about being a Halloween queen?
I don't know. Like, maybe it's just in her circle. It's like, oh, you started
If
Halloween.
you stay a Halloween queen, that's the bigger problem. But
if you just do it once a year,
yeah,
it's fine.
Whatever.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, she also seemed to think that she's acting like she's 8,000 years old. She's like, well, back in my day. I was like, aren't you in your early 30s?
Yeah,
girl?
last week then? Was it last week?
I know you're older than these queens, but things weren't that different back in your day.
No.
You still had, all access to all the same stuff.
And Lexi has a great story, like the things she's overcome and how she's experienced her life. But I felt that Lexi's story, although important to tell, this wasn't the time to tell it. Because there wasn't a reason to. She kind of just threw it out, who's done drag because they had to, or who did it because it's drag. And then there was this undertone to how important her drag was because she saved her life with it. Not diminishing anyone else's, but that seemed to be the unspoken part of it. It just seemed odd.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't the intent of how she wanted to share her story, but because they forced it out of her at this junction as opposed to a more organic moment, it did come off odd.
To me, it did come across like she was kind of looking down her nose at the other queens. Like, but it's like, well, the pageant girl is going to be very different than someone who's doing drag because they need to put food on the table. Yeah. Everyone's got different experience. Yeah. Everyone's experience is equally valid.
Yeah,
and exactly. no one's drag is lesser than just because they had the money right from the beginning.
Yeah. No.
Just different drag.
Yeah. Or you're Joella.
Or you.
Wow.
I feel like you're channeling me now. I feel like I'm a terrible influence on you.
Speaking of Joella and forced production conversations, she and Anya had a talk about representing culture because Joella felt she has a real problem trying to represent her Chinese heritage in drag, although she did walk into the season in a red Chinese dress with a gong. Yeah. But apparently she whitewashes herself and had a really great little chat with Anya about it.
Yeah, because Anya's really showcasing her African heritage and going very African with it, which I love. Yeah. As someone who's slightly African, just a little bit, I just love it when I get to see that stuff. But yeah, it feels a bit like production was telling them to talk about stuff because I'm like, oh, okay.
And then it was time to head to the main stage. Ru looked gorgeous and summery, subdued. You know,
really very subdued. She just kind of wandered in off the beach.
Yeah, after a nice walk on the beach. Yeah. Exactly. You know who looks stunning? Michelle Visage. She had a lot of nerve looking that good this week.
Gorgeous. Carson was with us. That was fun.
So nice to see Carson back because he's not Ross Matthews. And from 1923 and
The Politician.
The Politician. I've not seen either of those shows.
Well, The Politician is a Ryan Murphy joint, which is why I had any reference to it at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I've not watched it. And then the Yellowstone franchise, I've just never watched it.
Well, if I want to watch dirty people, I'll just ride the bus.
Either way, Julia Schlattfer was trying to outdo Corey King in a feathered top.
Category is Quilted. For your pleasure.
Well, I don't know whose pleasure Lydia B.
The B stands for butthole.
Collins was trying to reach, but this was not a pleasurable look. She looked like you could smell the cat pee. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
this looked like an old cat sofa futon toy thing.
That was what she was going for.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going for a crazy cat lady couch, and I'm like, I can smell it from here. It was very much on brand. Very.
Yeah. No, I loved it. I'm not saying I didn't. It was just gross.
Yeah, it was very uncomfortable.
But it was quilted. It was unique. No one else was wearing that, and she still painted her face beautifully.
Her face was gorgeous.
Yeah, I totally gave that quilt a Fingerdoo for sure. Lana Geray looked stunning, and even though the fabric pieces in her outfit were quilted, they didn't seem to be padded. Like there was no quilting in them. They were just sewn together in shapes. So it looked more like napkins than a quilt, but it was stunning. I gave her a Fingerdoo.
It was very colorful, but it just looked like a bunch of napkins or pot holders that she sewed to a very simple
compared
dress.
to some of the other looks about to come down that, it was all right. It was all right.
Yeah, it was cute. It wasn't my fave.
No.
Speaking of not my fave, next on the runway was Joella, dressed as an oversized maxi pad or something. I don't understand.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
You could barely see her face.
Yeah. At all.
And then she flipped around and there was a giant RuPaul on the back. So, I mean, points for kissing up, but you were just a giant rectangle.
Needless to say, regardless of how big her face hole was, no fingers, no do's. It was a sad week for Joella. Yeah. Thank God Ariadne went down the runway next because her outfit was stunning. The color was gorgeous, the asymmetry, the design, the fashion. It just wasn't a quilt.
Yeah, the black latex underneath was fun. It looked amazing, but where's the quilting?
The closest she got to a quilt was that I could see that fabric being used in a quilt, but it wasn't quilted. It was a shame. I think she missed. I think she shot herself in the foot unnecessarily with this.
It was such a great outfit, but it just didn't fit the brief.
I wanted to give Arietta a Fingerdoo, but well, I just couldn't. Where's your quilt? Seriously.
Next down the runway was Jules in a blue quilted supervillain number, which was great. I mean, it was essentially a bodysuit with a lot of fun stuff off of it, but it was fun. It was real fun. Yeah. The quilting wasn't the main focus for some, but it was still there, and
normally a navy color on the runway isn't great, but it worked. Like it worked for what she had. So I totally gave her a Fingerdoo because she looked fantastic. It just wasn't the brightest quilt on the stage. One that was the brightest was Hormona's ode to Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors, which was more or less a house coat in quilting, but although it was gorgeous, it fit her beautifully. It was still a quilt over, like it was just, you know what I mean? Like it was
a little too on the nose.
Yeah. Like there wasn't enough innovation in it for me. I wish she had done a little more, but still, she did everything she was supposed to, and that's why I gave her a Fingerdoo.
Next down the runway was Crystal Envy in a takeoff of Gigi Hadid's Met Gala gown.
I gagged.
It was beautiful.
She didn't have to reveal nothing underneath that beautiful coat dress. If that's all she had worn down the runway, it would have been more than enough. It was still better than most. I don't think there's any question that I gave Crystal a Fingerdoo. It was stunning. Stunning work. Well done. And then the reveal.
She gilded the lily.
Oh, lobster arms and legs for your nerves. It looked fantastic.
It looked so fantastic. And I had no idea. Like, they look so weird and confusing. And it's one of my favorite things when drag is weird and confusing. Yeah. So, Crystal. Crystal showed up this week.
No kidding. You know who else showed up this week? Susie Toots, although you would never have known it because she would have walked right by. You wouldn't have known that was her in a second. She had a regular beat, a nice long flowy elf-like wig on, a beautiful headdress. And the dress itself was stunning. It wasn't quilted for me. It was more patchwork. But
I know they're in the same neighborhood, but when I'm thinking quilt, that's not what I'm thinking.
No, I'm thinking like a nice homage.
Homage?
No.
Can I be perfectly Amish with you? The buttons you've been using are quite offensive. Where's your beard? Where's your mustacheless beard?
Yeah, as much as it wasn't a typical quilt, I totally gave Susie a Fingerdoo because she just looked spectacular. Also, the thing I appreciated was the dress was very dark, which left all of the focus up on her face, which was the perfect time to focus on her face because she changed it.
Yeah, she looked beautiful.
Well
She looked
done.
beautiful,
Yeah.
yeah. Sam Starr was up next doing an ode to lying in a sleeping bag. Her headpiece / wig was just a giant line on the pillow, and her gown was inspired by a sleeping bag. It was all very quilted. It was all very fun. I quite enjoyed this.
Yeah, I liked it. I've seen this illusion enough, but she still did a great job, and she deserved a Fingerdoo for sure. Acacia went down the runway in her mother's quilt, her grandmother's...
Doilies?
I think her great-grandmother's doilies, but her grandmother's lace work or something. Anyway, it was a female-centric ode to her family tree, and I liked it. It was great, but the problem for me was the lace was so overpowering that I didn't see the quilting for what it was.
Yeah.
Also, I think the lights washed out the quilt. I think if she had not used an actual proper quilt and worn a quilt for the challenge, it would have been brighter, but it was still quilted. She looked gorgeous. It's the nicest she's looked on that runway.
Yeah.
Her tits weren't out. It was gorgeous. I gave her a Fingerdoo, for
It's
sure.
very classy. I love the way the doilies were up on the wig, and I didn't notice it on my first viewing, really. And then second time around, I was like, oh, look at you go. Oh, I'm so proud of little Acacia.
Yeah, well done.
Next down the runway, serving black excellence on your nerve.
This was gorgeous.
It was gorgeous.
She did look like Barry White's wife.
She really did. She really
It's so
did.
funny. The minute Bruce said it, I was like, oh my God, I can't not see it.
But I just love Anya. The moment she knows the camera's on and it's her time to perform,
But also,
she delivers.
now she knows Rue loves her on the runway. So she was really, this was that one where she stopped, looked, and went, girl, it's just me. It's become just a private conversation between Rue and Anya whenever she's on the runway, and I love it. I think it's great. Yeah, I totally gave her a Fingerdoo. How could I not? It was stunning. Lexi was next, and oh my God, I almost threw up. This was so gorgeous. This was like Breakfast at Tiffany's on acid. It was just stunning. And the first thing I thought was, where's the quilt? Well, the quilting was the fabric that all the rhinestones were glued to.
Yeah.
And when she turned around and there were less rhinestones, you saw all the quilting. So it clearly was there. But wow, the star of that show were the rhinestones. Actually, the star of that show was Lexi. She sold the hell out of that. Fingerdoo for sure, because it was so unexpected for a quilt challenge. And I think she did an excellent job.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
That big dumb hat
Yeah.
that looked like she just stole the thimble from the Monopoly challenge last week.
That's right.
Stuck it on her head. I'm like, what is that? It's so dumb. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. Is she good? She knows how to work a runway.
And then last but not least, serving up an homage to her drag family was Corey King in kind of a boring little hat.
This was one of those things that proportions were off. She had that wide neckline with the ruffle of the quilt over the large breastplate, her hips, and then that tiny little hat, no hair.
Yeah, tiny hair.
This,
tiny
if
hat.
anything was calling for a big do, this was the outfit, because she needed some balance there.
Well, there was a big do, but I think she was hauling it in the train. There was something big
something was in there.
and wet and heavy.
Yeah,
in the
maybe
back
it was
of
her
that train.
wig. Maybe it just hadn't set yet, and she just thought, fine, stick it in the thing, I'll just walk on like this.
Woof.
Yeah. I gave her a Fingerdoo. Yes, it was quilted, but there were a lot of problems with this for me.
Yeah, and seeing the breastplate from behind, like,
oh, that was the worst.
illusion.
I'm so glad Michelle points these things out because, when I say, the ankle of these tight, it's not a foot tight, it's an ankle tighter. These little things, if they catch your eye and pull you out of it, it's worth mentioning.
And then it was time to watch the commercials. And I must say, they turned out really fun. This is a very fun challenge.
Yeah, like they really, for all the bad footage they showed during the filming, they didn't give anything away for the finished product. Yeah. And I thought they all did an excellent job.
I thought Lydia and Lana did a good job.
It was a good
pretty
job.
Funny.
Yeah.
Crystal's tumbleweed, though, really kept stealing the show. Every time Crystal went by,
It was so
like,
obtuse. If you hadn't told me it was happening, I would have spent the whole time going, why is she doing this? The only problem I had was Lydia's lips were so big that it looked like a mustache. Every time from far away, I kept thinking it was a mustache, and they come in, and it was like, oh no, it's her lips.
It's just her lips.
This is very funny. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
This is Lydia.
This is Lydia.
Butthole Collins.
The butthole stands for B.
Big lips.
Big old lips.
Mwah.
Mwah. That butthole's got a hemorrhoid on her face.
Unfortunately, Joella was next, and as predicted, this fell short on so many levels. I hated her choices for the gospel part of the number, and then her reveal of under the yellow dress was to have a black dress that was more or less the same dress.
Yeah,
underneath.
She seemed off from the lip sync.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't enough energy. Like, it needed to be really over the top, and it was just...
And then clearly last minute, she felt she needed to do more, and she took off that ugly yellow wig she had on, only to reveal her own hair. And I just feel like there were some missed opportunities. She could have had a more interesting reveal in the costume. She could have a much more interesting reveal in the wig. She definitely suffered by her own hand for this. Yeah, bless.
I thought Jules was so funny. I thought she outshone Ariete. Ariete didn't do a bad job.
No, not at all. She kept up with Jules, but
Jules outshone her. Jules'
effortless.
physical chemistry was like her face just
It was never the same thing twice, but it was always as good. And she really, if I were watching Jules in a class for improv, I'd want to work with her because she just totally she seemed very user friendly. She wasn't. It wasn't just about her, but
Jules has got some comedy chops.
Yeah,
so
she's good. I can't wait to see her in a proper challenge.
I'm very excited to see more from Jules in a comedy challenge.
Well, she's not going home soon.
She's not going home soon.
No. She better not. Hold it together, Jules. The best commercial for Volume 1 was Crystal's. That involved almost everyone from her team. There were different camera angles that were going on. It was Crystal looked fantastic. I was very impressed with how their number went.
Much to my surprise, Hormona Lisa was one of my favorite performances.
What were they yelling at?
I don't know what they were showing us in the edit. But
she did an excellent job.
She did a great job. Everything was exactly the way I would have done it. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't know what was going on. Just lots of fun from Hormona. I thought she did a great job.
And then it was time for Volume 2. And Susie Toots hit it off beautifully. Like if I were following Susie Toots, it was a live performance and a judging, I would be worried.
Yeah, I think I'm a Toot stan.
Yeah.
Sam and Acacia did a good job. It wasn't the tack I would have taken. It wasn't the approach I would have done. No. It was very like Miami Sound Machine kind of vibe going on, which maybe Acacia can't did. So
whether she can or can't, what I thought made her stand out in this was the fact that she just did whatever she was told. She took direction beautifully. There were some great faces that while they were tangoing, she interacted with Sam really well. Like for somebody who may not have been as confident to do whatever they were going to do, she certainly executed it beautifully. Yeah. So I was very impressed. Was the number the best going? No. Was it my least favorite? No, it was good. So well done, girls. Well done. My favorite number of the whole night was Engineer Lighters Up. It was gorgeous. If somebody had said, we're writing a song for that queen over there, I wouldn't have been surprised. But it was total luck of the draw that Anya got it. She killed it. She looked fantastic. The wig she had on, the dress, all of it. Very impressed by Anya Nerve this week. I think she really, if anyone was going to pull away from the pack and stand out, that's the way you do it. Yeah, she did an excellent job.
Yeah, she did a great job. I mean, good for her for having a solo moment. But also, whoever wrote that song, it was so dumb and fun.
It was a great song.
It was a great little song. Yeah. I was very impressed by the songs this week.
Yeah.
I have to say, sometimes
they were fun. Maybe it's because they were all short little songs. They weren't a full song. Yeah.
Snippets.
Just the best. The best of what they wrote. There you go. Maybe they wrote 5 or 6 songs. They were like, these all stop halfway. And then they start to say, let's do a compilation.
Compilation. Perfect. Next up in the compilation was Lexi Love. Another queen, did a good job. Not a big standout for me.
It just wasn't a great song. It wasn't a bad song. It just wasn't a great song. But she did well with it.
Yeah. And once again, like the wind machine not moving that gigantic wig was
the best part.
One of my favorite parts.
It would have been funny if everything else in the room had blown away but her wig.
But she looked like she was having a really fun time.
No, she sold the hell out of it. Yeah. And then it was time for Corey. There wasn't one moment of that song that I cared to watch. It was awful. It just was awful. It was awful. Nothing improved with the editing. There was no surprise moment that they didn't show us from the filming.
No, we saw it all.
As advertised.
Yeah.
Oh.
Just way more scrambling around and trying to get up than I thought there was going to be. Like, that was half the track. Yeah. It was. I don't know what was going on in her mind, but it did not translate.
No.
So if she had good ideas, they did not end up on the screen for us to enjoy.
And then it was time for the judges' critiques. Landing in the top this week, Crystal, Envy, of course. Susie Toots, of course.
Well deserved.
On your nerve. I think that was a powerful top.
I think that was a very strong. Yeah, there was a lot of competition this week, but that's a very strong top 3. That's probably who I would have gone for.
Yeah. And although I think Crystal was definitely thinking it was her that was going to win, no. On your nerve took her first win, and well deserved. Yeah. She's going to win a challenge anyway. I don't think this was a bad one to win. Her runway killed, and her performance killed.
Yeah. Yeah, Anya's just bringing a little more personality to things, and I think that's probably what edged her out over Crystal this week.
Yeah, it's just that touch of personality. She just sparkles a little bit brighter than a couple of them. So, well done, Anya. Let's hope that that's not her last win.
Yeah.
Landing in the bottom this week. Oh, God bless each and every one of them. Of course, Joella, no one's surprised there. Corey King, no one's surprised there. And Ariete.
Ariete, yes.
What a shock.
I mean, it just shows how stiff the competition was this week. And she threw herself at the bottom by doing her nose contour, which Michelle clearly
has already talked to her twice. And especially on a night when Susie didn't do her signature look twice, it just made her signature nose stand out a bit more in a bad way.
And then her runway didn't really have anything to do with the runway category.
No,
so,
if it had been Quilted, I feel like she might have edged somebody else out into the safe zone. But as it was, there was no fear for Ariete because she was not going to be lip syncing. She wasn't that bad.
Yeah, she was just there to be chastised, I think. I think Michelle just
she needed a wrist slap, and she got it, and hopefully this will put her on the road to right, because she seems to be caught up in what other people are doing. She needs to focus on herself. But landing in the bottom, of course, it was Corey King and Joella, and I was immediately worried for Joella because, well, she was dressed like a maxi pad.
Yeah. They were lip syncing to Pussycat Dolls Buttons featuring Snoop
Dogg, yes.
And Joella decided not to bother learning the Snoop Dogg rap.
Well,
obviously.
The first thing she did, which sealed her fate for me, was she turned right around and let the RuPaul face show.
I didn't think she was going to take it off at all.
Because she thought, I think somebody else said, I think it was Susie, that she thought it was looking like she was lip syncing. And if she had a little mechanical thing to make the mouth move, then I would have been fine.
It would have been hilarious.
But no. And she left it on far too long and did far too much like that. And yeah, it looked like that was it. Then she whipped it off, and it was that boring pink onesie underneath.
Yeah.
And then the same dance moves. And again, you know, for somebody who keeps saying what a fierce queen she is, it's like, I think you need to watch Fierce Queens to see what that really means.
Yeah, we've seen all these moves. I mean, Corey, I have to say, this wasn't a great lip sync from either one of them.
No.
Corey ended up taking a lot of her.
This was a boring lip sync for sure, yeah.
But she was at least doing, she had some hair braid. I mean, we haven't really seen her do anything, so we don't know if these are the only moves that she has. But she did a little wig reel. She was like, you know, swinging her braid around and took off the most egregious parts of the outfit.
Yeah.
So it was no surprise when all was said and done that Corey, Shantae, and poor Joella sashayed over to the badunkadunk tank.
The badunkadunk tank. And, well, for all the drama, that they are clearly not going to let anybody win that badunkadunk until it's the last one. Because she pulled lever, was it 6?
Who knows?
And nothing. Nothing for Joella. She sashayed away. Michelle stayed dry. And
it's her age, though.
We got
that age, she's going to be dry more often than not.
And we got our second elimination of season 17, finally. God bless. What did you think? Do the right queen go home?
Yes. Yes. 100% yes.
This is the beginning of the curse, of the box front curse. As you called her last week, said you're starting to get on your nerves. Now she gone.
Well, I mean, there's always a couple of queens that are just not quite up to snuff. And you don't know when you go in there what your competition's going to be like. So, go in and try your best. And it just, she just was not in the same category as everyone else. Maybe in a couple of years she'll be the fierce queen that
she thinks
she pretends that she is. But there's something about having a little bit of humility.
Well, now that Joella's gone, who are you going to set your evil sights on next for less like queen?
I don't know. Who is going to offend me next week?
Is Susie still on the bubble for you, or has she done enough to...
Susie really won me over this week. So I'm on Team Toot. I've had a turnaround.
I was worried for Homona week 1. I've been worried for Acacia, but they both seem to play well with others this week.
I
So
think I seem to like Hormona much more than the rest of the cast does. So I don't know what is going on with Hormona, but
I think
don't have a problem
Ariette's
with
going to
her.
be her own worst enemy if she's not careful.
Ariette's looking gorgeous, but she's starting to bother
But it's not enough.
me.
She doesn't have follow-through.
Yeah. And Corey King, I want to love.
I really want to love her.
I love the way she takes critiques on the runway.
Yeah.
Like I love a lot about Corey King. I just don't love her drag.
No, she hasn't. Well, at least in a drag race scenario, she's just falling short a bit. But it's going to be hard pressed to see who's next. It'll all depend on what the challenge is, and the only thing we can do is tune into RuPaul's Drag Race season 17 next week to see how it all plays out. And then when you're done, come on back and compare notes with Wilhelmina and I. Until then, please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and leave a comment. Those are the best ways to support the Fingerdoo review. But if you want to go that extra mile, there's the YouTube thanks button below this screen. There's my OG Tipperdoo PayPal link in the description box down below, along with a link to my Redbubble store where you can get your Wilma merch, and the Fingerdoo family on Patreon where we meet twice a month for live chats. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having.
And until next week, miss us! Seriously. Who's your favorite so far to win, like, just after 4 episodes? Do you have one?
I don't know if I have a... Like, Sandstar's really good.
Yeah.
But I still need a little more personality.
Yeah, I agree.
Anya Nerve I'm really enjoying, but I'm also wondering how far... It's like, is she just going to cruise on personality?
Yeah, like, what more does she have? Because personality will take her far, but she needs to follow it through with something else as well.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Jules impressed me this week.
Because Jules I really loved at the beginning, and then last week I was like, meh, and this week she's back.
And Susie impressed me. Like, if she's got that kind of variety waiting, mind you, she is a theater queen, so I don't think she's limited by what her drag says.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think anything she does at this point is going to be a revelation because they've really kind of put her into a niche. Thank God she's little. Just stick her in, just spin on her and push. That's all.